Welcome back to the Catnip Podcast. My name is Grace. Today is Thursday, August 17th, and I will tell you why it is Thursday and why I'm recording on a Thursday in just a minute. But before I get into that, this is a podcast about knitting, and a lot of knitting today. There's but there's baking today, there's also books today, there's coffee today, or coffee information that I have learned this week, which is always important, and I feel the need to share it with you all because I know that other people can benefit from this information, so I'm going to share my knowledge. Like always, all the show notes and the things that I talk about will be in the show notes. I don't know if I said show notes twice, but we're just gonna go with it. It is very early in the morning, so no judgment there. I have show notes there on my blog. If you are on YouTube, that'll be linked down below. If you're on my blog, that'll be down below. There is a Ravelry podcast group where you can join and be part of a group that I am terrible at replying to things, but that is up to you. There is a podcast group if you'd like to join. If you go to Ravelry and click on the groups tab, and then search for the Catnip Podcast, it'll pop up. There is also an online store where you can buy some yarn that I've hand dyed myself, and that is thecatnityarns.bigcartel.com. You can also follow me on all my various social medias. There is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry. Like I mentioned last week, my Facebook name is now different. It is the Catnip Yarns, so if you were following me before and you are confused, do not be afraid. It is still the same. It is still the same content, do not worry. I'm most active on my Instagram by far. If you'd like to join me over there, that would be wonderful. Everything will be linked down below. And yes, if you have any questions, feel free to message me or whatever. I also have Goodreads, which we'll get into that later. That's good information to know. Anyway, I do apologize for this strange lighting. It is very gloomy this morning, and so normally by this time it would be much brighter, but because it is dark and gloomy, which is personally my favorite weather, I had to bring in an external lamp, which used to be behind me, and the light is very yellow, I will say that. So we have a blue over here and we have yellow over here. So if the lighting changes at all during this episode, I do apologize. I have tried to maneuver it so it's not too much in my face. I think I did a good job. Hopefully it's not a big deal, but I do apologize. It is not the normal. But it is Thursday, so it is not the normal recording day. There's also that. Anyway, this is a very rambly and long intro. I will go ahead and say that if you have your tea or something tasty to drink or coffee or whatever you want to drink, go grab that. Maybe some craftiness. If you like to craft while I chat to you, you can join me for some crafty chat. I have left this tea while I was getting ready for the podcast, and it has gone cold, and I did not realize how cold it had gotten, so that was a very disappointing sip. But that's okay. Are the neighbors taking a bath? It's a different day, different issues. Thankfully they have stopped. So, today, what do I want to start with? Oh, the fact that it's Thursday. We already talked about the lighting. Today is Thursday because my husband and I have some college friends that are getting married on Saturday, which is so exciting, and that's in Houston, so we are going to go and spend the weekend with our families and celebrate the wedding and all that kind of stuff. So therefore, I am recording on Thursday. We are not leaving on Friday like the last time that this was an issue. We're leaving this evening. So that is why I'm recording Thursday morning, so I can get everything done in time and edited for it to go up on Saturday. So you will be seeing this at the normal time, but for me this is not the normal time, because I'm sure you were really interested, and obviously that really affects you because you'll be seeing this at the normal time. In other words, it will not. So, irrelevant rambling. Moving on, since this is a knitting podcast, we will just go straight into the knitting, and which makes the most sense, as I have been doing in the past. I have not prepared my big bag of projects, but they're all in the same big bag that I showed you last week. which by the way I did find, so if you looked at the show notes, they still have it at Target if you are interested. Everything is still in here. Everything has gotten progress, and one thing in particular, drumroll please. That was a very bad drumroll. But one thing in particular, I finished. And if you follow me on Instagram, and it's also at the very bottom of this bag, if you follow me on Instagram, you saw this, you would have seen this yesterday or on Wednesday. Oh no. I still have to weave in all the ends, but it's been blocked, it's been dried, everything's been finished, and there are about 10,000 ends to weave in, but that's okay. You know, you do what you gotta do. The only reason why I'm not wearing it is a sweater, so, oh my goodness. The only reason why I'm not wearing it is that obviously it is Texas. It is warm. Even though it's 7:30 in the morning or 7 or whatever it is, it's still very warm. And I don't really feel like wearing a woolly sweater right now, so we're just not going to, and then also I can show it to you better. Actually, I don't know how well I can show it to you because I'm literally just gonna like lift it up and be like, hey, look at this sweater I made, isn't it amazing? Looks like a big sheet. But there will be nice pictures taken. Oh, look at those lace panels. Doesn't that just make you so happy? It makes me very happy. So yes, a little bit about this pattern. If you are not aware, this is the old Romance Cardigan by Joji Locatelli. It is a wonderful, wonderful, well-written pattern. Definitely for adventurous knitters though, because of the interesting sleeve construction. It is not impossible, but it is a little bit more challenging, I will say that. I did not make any, well, I did a little bits, little modifications. I said I was going to add length to the body of the sweater. I accidentally added more, and then it grew when I blocked it, which I'm actually super happy with. I love it even more now that it's longer because it's like really flowy and it's long and I love it, and we're just throwing around this sleeve with all these ends. My cat would love this, but he's not getting to it. I also did not include the picking up stitches around the sleeve. The pattern calls for that, and you do like a couple rounds of ribbon. I just like the look of it being a little bit more raw, or not unfinished, but you know what I mean. I like the look of like this edge and then this like swoopy edge. So it is wonderful. Like I said, and I have said many times before and will continue to say, I have thousands of ends to weave in, so that'll be a fun thing to do. The yarns that I used, it is not this color, it is more gray, but thanks to this handy dandy lamp over here, it's a little bit more yellow. It looks a little bit more purpley, but it's definitely very gray. That's probably more accurate. So, this is Madeline Tosh Mo Light. Both of these both of these yarns are that base. This white here is the antler colorway. Look at that, that's so beautiful. And then the gray is the kitten colorway. There we go. Okay, well, here, let's see. There we go. That is a very accurate, actually. See, this morning light is really wonderful. It's just that we need more of it, and it's not coming in. So hopefully it won't, like, looking at myself in my little viewfinder, hopefully it won't, we might have to change the lighting at some point. But that's okay, we'll get to that point when we get to it. I love this cardigan so much. It fits me like a glove. It is so perfect. I love it. I could definitely see myself making another one of these. It is definitely like a long-term project. Although I do realize if I had been more faithful working on it, it probably would have gotten done much sooner. Because I in fact got the yarn for a Christmas present this past Christmas and didn't really work on it until, I didn't really like hardcore work on it until February, and then worked on it off and on, and then finished it halfway through August. So there's that. But yeah, I love it so much. I think another really pretty version, which I actually haven't seen very many of these, I've seen a lot of like gray and white versions, but I think a black and white one would be really, really beautiful. But however many inches of black stockinette on a size 4 or whatever, 4 or 5 with fingering weight might get a little boring, but I feel like it would totally be worth it. Like black and gray, that would be so beautiful. Oh. I have too many sweaters right now. I can't start planning to make another sweater that I've already made. Also, so I don't know about you knitters out there, and if you don't knit, I will explain this general fear. In my mind, I would call it a fear. When you knit a sweater and you have to pick up around the neckline, there is always a possibility that your ratio is off for how many stitches that you pick up to how many rows that you have along the side, and it can sometimes be really wonky depending on like the edging that you have, or if you just did your math wrong, or if the pattern is wonky. There are so many like possibilities for this thing to go wrong. And if you do that, if you don't pick up enough stitches, it'll cinch everything up. And so a sweater that was once very long and flowy and hung really nicely. Confusing my words. I think it's hung really nicely. Yeah, it would be hung really nicely. Of course it would be hung really nicely. If it hung really nicely, and then you picked up these stitches and you didn't pick it up, it's so early. You didn't pick up enough, the bottom would then like be all cinched up together on either side, and it just would not look very good at all. And like, I've done that several times, and every time I've done it, it's been such a disappointment, because you're like, I love this sweater so much, it's gonna be amazing, now it's time to do the neckband. And then you do it, and then it's all like bunchy, and it's like, well, I just put in all that work and now I have to take it all out and redo it. Not the whole sweater, but just the neckband, which can take a long time. So that is a problem. In addition to that being a problem, you also have the problem of casting off too tightly. And I have done this even more often than not picking up enough stitches around the neckline. And so it's just so scary, because the neckline can make or break a cardigan in my mind. Like, if it's too tight, it'll kind of like it won't make it look good. If it's too loose, it'll be like really floppy everywhere and it won't look good. And so while I was doing that with this cardigan, I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna go with the flow. I'm gonna do exactly what the pattern says, and hopefully it'll work out. And it did. I was so happy with it. Like, I could not be more happy with this picked up edge. I love a good picked up edge. It is one of the most beautiful knitted things, techniques, add-ons, I don't know. It's just so beautiful. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel this way, and I just want to share the love. But look how beautiful that is. Like, it's so smooth. I also realized that I'm tooting my own horn here, because like, I did this work and I'm really happy with the work that I did. And I just want to share that with you guys. It's just so beautiful. But yeah, I just really love the way how that looks. And especially since my cast off was just right, I picked up enough stitches around everything. It was perfect. So happy. So yes, this is the old Romance Cardigan by Joji Locatelli, Madeline Toshmo Light for the yarns. So wonderful. Would I make this pattern again? For sure, but definitely not anytime in the foreseeable future. So, I am so excited with this. I cannot wait to wear it, because it just fits so nicely, and there will be pictures coming. I do promise that. I don't know when they will be coming, but they will be coming soon. So Next up on the list of what I have been knitting, I will show you this because it is currently not connected to any yarn balls of any sort, except this little baby one that I have created. Which I wouldn't even call it a yarn ball, but whatever. We'll just talk about it. This is the Veronica cardigan by Shannon Cook. I have sung its praises before, and it is so beautiful, and it really doesn't look like anything right now, but it will eventually become a beautiful, beautiful sweater that is very big and snuggly and just like so amazing. Is this better? That's a little better. It's a little bit more blue. It's much more like browny. It's like a warm, dark brown. That's kind of accurate. I don't know. It's a beautiful color. The yarn is Cascade Eco Wool in the color Ebony. And it is wonderful. I still have a long way to go. I think I might be like, maybe not a long way, but I still have like maybe a little bit more than half of the repeats that I need to do. So yes, but road trip to Houston, that's a plus. I can knit during that. Although since we will be traveling at the nighttime this evening, I have pulled out a very old project from the languishing whips pile, whips being work in progress, to have something that is just like plain stock knit, because before it would have been the old Romance Cardigan, and now that I'm done with that, I need something else that I can knit without looking at it, or not having to worry about like missing a garter row or whatever, which I'm sure I could do this in the dark, but I wouldn't want to risk it. So we're just gonna pass on that one. It is very wonderful. I finally finished my first skein. I have this little bit left. Last week I had a fair amount left, but that was just made more progress. That is very good. I really should just mark where I last showed you, and then I can be like, look at how much progress I made. But then also you can see how little progress I made, and that would be embarrassing. So maybe not on that. But I did wind up my second skein, and because these skeins, Cascade Eco Wool, they come in massive skeins. There's like 412 yards, I believe. I don't know what that is in meters, but it's a lot. It's huge for a heavy worsted weight or a worsted weight or whatever. Usually I am able to somehow finagle it into one cake of yarn, but this time I was not, so I have a big one and then a little baby one. So, but that's okay. I was hoping to be able to get it all in one go, so then there would be less ends to weave in, but that was not to be, not to happen, not to be. So it is what it is. It's not gonna change anything. It's just an interesting fact of life. But yes, so this is Cascade Eco Wool, like I said before, in the color Ebony. Pattern is Shannon by Shannon Cook, called the Veronica cardigan. If you don't know what it looks like, I highly recommend going and looking at it on Ravelry, or look at the hashtag the Veronica cardigan. And if you don't know what that is, or if you don't know like spelling wise, because it has a K in it, it's not the normal spelling of Veronica, you can go to my Instagram page and you can look through my pictures and you can pick out a picture that has this kind of yarn in it, and then it'll have that hashtag and you can just look at it that way. Or just search Shannon Cook on Instagram. She'll be linked in the show notes, so don't worry. She'll be there. She'll be there. Yes. This is coming with me to Houston, so yay. Thirdly, which will not come as a surprise to anybody because I have showed this on the podcast for the past several weeks. And I'm definitely making progress, but this progress is slow progress. This will look very familiar. We've seen it before. not a lot of progress has been made, but let's keep in mind I did finish a cardigan this week, so feeling pretty good about that. I'm not saying that I did terrible on this project this week. I definitely could have made more progress, but I just haven't. So this is the starting point. Was Mistering It Along with by Hohi Locatelli. I just really love her designs. And so this is one half, and I have the other half, which I have not worked on at all, because I'm doing it clue by clue in order to keep things straight in my mind while reading it. And so you do one clue on one side and then you repeat the same clue on the other side. So once I'm done with clue 3 on this side, I will go ahead and do clue 3 again on this side, if that makes sense. So that way I don't knit an entire side and then have to repeat the entire thing over again. It's kind of like I'm knitting them, it's not consistently, but at the same time. I don't remember what that word is. I know there's a word. Consecutively? I don't know. You guys know what I mean. When you're knitting them at the same time or close to the same time. So that is that. I'm really enjoying it. It is a good knit to have while reading, which is a foreshadowing towards things that I'm going to be talking about later. I've done a lot of reading this week. I've also done a lot of like audiobook listening this week. It's been great. I love it. So when I was not working on the old Romance Cardigan, I was working on this because I finished the Veronica yarn pretty early on in the week, and I just now wound more yarn for that yesterday. So, which I guess is only Wednesday. It's not like I waited till Friday to do it, or Thursday as it normally would be. This is getting confusing. What are my yarns? We'll go over the yarns real quick. Everything is on my project page though, so I'm not going to go into it in too great a detail, but I will explain what the colorways are. This is Manos, we'll turn this way because this is more accurate. Manos Style Uruguay in the Pheno color, or Pheno base in the Rosewater colorway. This is the same base in the Havisham colorway, and both of these have cashmere in them, and it is wonderful. It feels like knitting with butter. It's so good. This is Madelinetosh BFL Light, I believe. It's either BFL or Mo Light. I don't remember which one. I have both of the bases in this, so there's that. But this is the Flannel Blanket colorway. This is also Madelinetosh in either the Mo Light base or the BFL Light base. And this is the Toner Cartridge colorway. And then this is the same yarn that I used for my old Romance Cardigan, and this is the Kitten colorway in the Madelinetosh Mo Light base. So, those are my colors. I love them so much. I cannot wait to wear them. I cannot wait to put this thing together. I don't know how it's gonna go, but I'm really excited to see how it's gonna work out. I am very excited. So, I feel like this is definitely gonna become my knitting project, Think before you speak. Knitting while reading project, because I want to get it done. So, motivation. So the last thing that I have actually not worked on this week, but I have pulled it out in order to go on this road trip this evening, so I'm going to show it to you anyway so you know what I'll be working on. This is living in a Stitch by Jessalou bag. The others are not living in any bag in particular, they're just living in one big bag all together. One big happy knitting family. But this has its own bag because this was This was its home. This has been its home for a long time. And I will show you what it is. And some of you might remember this from when we went on our honeymoon. This was my honeymoon knitting project, and I have not really worked on it since. And that is not to say that this is a bad pattern. That's not to say that this is bad yarn. There have just been so many things either going on or so many other things to knit upon that it's like, I don't really feel like just knitting a plain circle with very small yarn and very small needles. This is just not interesting to me right now. So this is, I love this yarn so much. I'm just gonna say that beforehand. I love this yarn. This is the sock head cowl. And now that I say that, I've completely forgotten who designed it, but it is a free pattern. It's the same designer as the sock head hat, which is basically the same thing. It's just that you don't have shaping to make it a hat. So yes, it's literally just like ribbing and then a tube and then more ribbing. The pattern is free, I believe. Actually, I know it's free. It is wonderful. I love it so much, and look at that yarn. Isn't it so beautiful? I'm actually knitting this from a sock blank. This is the first sock blank that I've actually knit from. And if you don't know what a sock blank is, that is literally like the dyers who have sock blanks. I'll just unroll this and show it to you. They get the yarn already knit up into like these blanks like this. They come completely white, and then they dye them from this. They dye them the way they are. That was confusing. They just dye the blanks. And then if you want, there are many ways that you can knit from a sock blank. A lot of people have their own personal preferences in regards to that. The fact that it is already knit means that your yarn is going to be very like curly, or like, I don't know if you can see that, but it's like, it's very kinky. I think that's a better word. I wouldn't say it's curly. So when you knit with this kind of yarn that is kind of kinky, it kind of makes your stitches look a little weird, which I know a good blocking can fix that. So I don't personally mind knitting from a sock blank, but I do know that some people do mind if they're knitting socks, for example, because that can really throw off your gauge. That can throw off a lot of different things. So some people like wind this off, or wind off sock blanks into skeins, and then like wash the skeins, and then like do a bunch of stuff so the yarn is a little bit more smooth. Which, more power to them. That is wonderful. Knitting preferences are, I love them. But I don't mind knitting from the sock blank. Also, because this is just a cowl, it's nothing like super showy, so I don't care that much. And this sock blank is from the marvelous Amy behind the Stranded Dye Works and the Stranded podcast, and she's wonderful. I love her podcast so much. She had a sock blank club sometime last year. Actually, I think it might have been around this time. Maybe it was September, October, November. It was 3 months around this time last year, and this was one of them. And so I have the others up there somewhere. So I'm very excited to be using this because I love her yarn and I love Amy, and so it's just so much fun. She does not have this colorway in her shop because it was like a club colorway, I believe. But if you're interested, this is the Disco Glow Stick colorway, I think. So, lots of fun. That's more accurate. That 2x2 rib though, looking mighty fine. So yeah, you can see how like wobbly my stitches are. And that's literally just because I've been knitting with this kinky yarn, so it's up to you. You knit the way that you knit because that's your choice. So there are no knitting police, which is something that my mom and I were told when we were in our like first couple knitting classes, and that has been a saying that has stuck with the both of us for our entire knitting careers. So because knitting is a career, there are no knitting police. There is no right or wrong way to do something. You do you. If you knit a certain way and you like that and it's different from everybody else's, keep doing you. Keep doing you. Knit the way that makes you happy. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, there is quite a bit of extra non-knitting stuff, baking, books, and coffee information. So, where do we start? We'll start at the very beginning because that is the best place to start. Like the ABCs. Hopefully you understand that reference. That is a very musically based reference. So, moving on. Irrelevant. Let's start with baking because that is what I mentioned first, and alphabetically that would come first. So, yay. Baking. If you've watched this podcast enough, you know that I love baking. I'm the type of person to find random recipes on Pinterest or cookbooks or whatever and be like, that sounds interesting, let's try it out. And maybe mess around with the recipe a little bit, add a little cinnamon here or there, try different chocolate chips or whatever, add nuts, I don't know. Try different things. And this time I did not experiment too much with actually I didn't at all, but it's the type of recipe that I want to make again because it was so good, and also experiment with the types of chocolate chips that were included. So I say chocolate chips because there are multiple kinds, so if you are really into chocolate, this is probably the recipe for you because, oh my goodness, it is literally the best blondie brownie cookie thing I've ever made. It is, this is also another really long title, so bear with me. It's very easy. It's the brown butter triple chocolate chip blondie. So lots of words, lots of descriptive terms. It's so good. Oh my goodness. It also goes really great with ice cream. So mighty fine. So yes, it's more brown butter. I feel like, I don't know, you know how like when you learn about something or like something happens to you, and once that thing happens, you start noticing all the other things around you that are the same? Does that make, here's an example. Like if you got a certain type of car and you had never seen that type of car before, and you started driving it and you bought it and all that kind of stuff, and then you saw all those types of cars everywhere, and they were already under your nose, you just didn't see them because you didn't know that they were there. I feel like that was a long-winded explanation. I feel like that the brown butter is that way with me on Pinterest and in recipes and on Instagram and anywhere that baking is involved, because, or maybe brown butter is just becoming more popular to add, I don't know. But like, goodness gracious, I love browning butter, and 2, it smells like heaven, and 3, it tastes amazing. It's just so, so good. And it's just so satisfying. It's just like, I did that. Look at that. It smells so good. It's gonna taste amazing. And you're probably thinking, can we move on from the brown butter and talk more about the recipe? I do apologize. I just love browning butter so much. One more thing I will say before I move on is that the smell, I don't know, like, this is very personal to me, or like it's a very like me thing. I don't know if you would have experienced this, but so my family, for as long as I can remember, as like a nice Christmas gift to give to friends and stuff, my dad would always make these incredible popcorn balls, and like it's literally popcorn and then like some kind of like caramely sauce where you use a candy thermometer and it has to get a certain temperature, and it's really complicated, but my dad does it the best. Like, I've had multiple popcorn balls that are not made by him, and his are the best by far. My dad knows how to do it. If you've ever experienced a Sap family popcorn ball, you know what I'm talking about. They are so good. And so when I brown the butter, like if you brown it long enough and you get that really, really amazing looking color, that smell is exactly the same of when like you're working on the candy stuff, caramely stuff to go into to make the popcorn balls. And I smelled it, and it reminded me of Christmas, and it reminded me of like helping my family put together popcorn balls, and it was just like, I love it so much. So good. Anyway, that's a little like backstory. Fun fact you didn't know about me. Popcorn balls at Christmas. So yes, it's like a blondie bar, but it's also like kind of like a cookie texture, but it's not a cookie texture. It's a nice mixture between a cookie and a brownie, I would say. I don't know that much about blondies necessarily. There's nothing against that. I just have not had very much experience with them. That's okay. The recipe calls for semi-sweet, milk chocolate, and white chocolate chips. And oh my goodness, that combination is amazing. But I do want to try new excuse me. I do want to try new like combinations, like maybe switch out the semi-sweet for dark chocolate, or maybe switch out the milk chocolate for dark chocolate, maybe add peanut butter chips in there. I don't know. So many options. I'm just so excited to make this thing again. It was also very easy. It was very quick. And yeah, goes great with ice cream, especially when you microwave it for a little bit, not the ice cream in the bar. Of course, why would you microwave ice cream unless you're trying to soften it up? Not relevant. Moving on. So this recipe I found technically through Instagram, but it's on her blog. The blog is called Handle the Heat, and her name is Tessa something or other. I love following her Instagram. She does a lot of baking items that involve chocolate, and I just love looking at them on Instagram, and it's just so amazing. I love it. Highly recommend following her if you are into Instagrams that are about baking and chocolate and all that kind of fun stuff. So highly recommend this recipe. You should totally try it out for sure, for sure. So secondly would come books, because that would be alphabetically. We have baking, books, and coffee. Books, this is probably going to be, I'm going to try and keep this rant, this adoration rant of love of this book to a very minimum, because I literally just finished it and everything inside of me wants to talk about it, and I know that if I just kept like talking about it, this would go on forever. So I'm going to try and like keep it condensed. So yes. The past couple weeks I've been asking for book recommendations, and I've gotten lots of book recommendations, and I really appreciate that. That's so wonderful. But this past week, a friend and viewer, Jordan, hello Jordan, she recommended several books, and one of them is The Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And oh my goodness. It's just like, apparently this is like an up-and-coming series. This has happened to me with like as the brown butter and the example of buying a car. Now that I've read it, or I know what it is, literally everybody, obviously not literally everybody, but a lot of people on my Instagram feed are like, oh my goodness, I love this book, like this is amazing. They're talking about it on Twitter, on Goodreads, everywhere. So it's like, well, how did I not know about this? I'm so glad that Jordan recommended this to me, because oh my goodness, so good. This is like a hardcore fantasy book that has to do with fairies and magic and realms and courts, obviously because courts is in the title. masks, I don't know. Oh my goodness, so good. Oh, it's definitely a retelling of some sort of Beauty and the Beast, so it's got that basic storyline. I don't want to give too much away because not knowing anything about it going into it made the experience just so much more amazing. So I will try not to give too much of it away. Just go read it. It's so good. It is like an intense fantasy novel, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of like fairy stuff that does get kind of intense, and there's like graphic battle scenes and all that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of romance as well. So if you're not like really into that, and if you're not really into like really intense versions of those things, then I don't know if this would be for you. But if you love fantasy and you're willing to give this a try, give it a try. It's so good. So I started it like 2 days ago. And now you're thinking, well, you finished it last night, so it clearly must have been really good. It was. Started it 2 days ago. It was a very slow start. I was kind of distracted while I was reading the beginning, so it was just kind of like, we'll see how this goes. I don't know. And I got to chapter 10, and I don't know, or maybe it was before that. I think it was before that. At some point, it really hit me, and I was like, I was in the book. I was just like, I can't stop. This is like literally so good. Oh my goodness. I love this. I can't stop. So yesterday, I spent almost all of yesterday reading it, and I stayed up till about 1:30 in the morning trying to finish it. Not trying to finish because I was enjoying it so much. And I finished it, and it was just like, oh my goodness. I also just really enjoy how it was written. It was written really well. Everything was described adequately. Like, I felt like I wasn't given too much information, but I was also given like enough information to satisfy my need for a lot of information. So it was a really good balance, I'll just say that. Another really cool thing, so Jordan, who recommended it, she has a blog where she does like book reviews and stuff. And on her Goodreads account, she mentioned in her review that she really felt all the emotions of the characters, and that is so true. Like, I felt literally everything that every single character was feeling, and even the bad person. Like, I felt all the feelings. I went through all the emotions. It was so good. Oh my goodness, I loved it. Can you tell that I loved it? Let's just say it about 10 more times. It's a series. I think there's 3 of them out right now, and currently the second one is not available on any of my like library platforms that I go to. They all have a wait list, and so I'm very desperate to get my hands on the second one somehow. It's so good. I just want to read more. I kind of read ahead, or I didn't read ahead, but I read a lot of like the reviews of the second one on Goodreads, and I read what everyone was having to say, and like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it, but I really want to like know what I feel about it. Does that make sense? I really want to see and have my own opinion about the next book, and will I agree with everybody? Will I disagree with everybody? I don't know. Granted, the reviews were half and half pretty much, so we'll see. Courts of Thorns and Roses, hardcore fantasy. When I was in high school, fantasy was probably one of my favorite genres to read, and so once I hit a certain point, or maybe like, it wasn't like a growing up thing, obviously, because I still enjoy reading fantasy, but at one point I got really busy, probably with college and all that kind of stuff, and I just didn't read as much fantasy anymore, and so every time I like get into a fantasy book, I'm reminded of like my love of fantasy, and it's just so amazing, and I love it so much. Oh my goodness. And it reminds me of how much fantasy I used to read, and how I should probably read more of it because I enjoy it so much. So highly recommend this book. do keep in mind, very intense scenes, battle scenes, romantic scenes, all kind of scenes basically. It's very intense, so probably not for younger children, but so good. So good. I love it. Cannot wait to read the second one. So hopefully that rant and rave of love for this book was not too long. Hopefully, we'll see if it was too long. If you did get bored of my rambling, I do apologize. Sometimes I can get a little carried away if I love something just too much. So, moving on, we'll just keep the books moving on. Next to coffee, and so I go kind of in between tea and coffee. Usually I'll go for tea, but recently I have figured out some very cool trick that has made me enjoy coffee even more. And I think that a lot of people can benefit from this. Maybe you already know this. I did not know this was a thing, but thanks to Pinterest, I do. And that is making a latte with that fancy foamy milk on top with all the little puffy goodness. It looks like a little pillow of joy on top of your coffee. You can make that without a fancy milk frother, which I didn't know was a thing. I mean, obviously they make those fancy milk frothers that have like the little, it vibrates or something and it makes the milk really frothy, and it's so good. It's very easy to use, but you can do that without that, and you don't have to spend money to get a really fancy milk frother. So I know a lot of people also are like really into doing this with espresso or like actual espresso. I just have my Keurig and that works just as well, so use whatever kind of coffee you want. It works good with anything. I will link to the tutorial thing that I found on Pinterest so you can look it up, but I will explain what I do to make my perfect frothy milk for my coffee. So I get my Keurig stuff all together, I brew it, and I try, so normally I would go for like the biggest size of coffee that comes out, but with this you'll probably want to do like the second or whatever amount of coffee you want, but maybe go like the one below, because you want to have enough room for the milk and for the frothy stuff in your mug. So gauge it off of your mug size. I don't know what kind of mugs you use, but just use that as a basis of size. And then while that's brewing, I will take a jar. Any kind of jar really will work. Mason jar. We have a bunch of like old like salsa jars that we've saved for grease purposes in the future, but ones that are empty right now, like spaghetti sauce jars, salsa jars, like I said, any kind of jars really that have just a lid and you can close up tight. You pour in the milk that you want to use. We always have fat-free milk, and this works just fine with fat-free milk, which I was worried that it wasn't going to work, but it worked just fine. So whatever kind of milk you want to drink, that's super cool. I don't know how well it would work with like almond milk and soy and all that kind of stuff, but with the regular milk, this is my experience. So sorry I don't have any information about the almond or soy or whatever, all the other kinds of milks, but with regular milk, this is how it works. You pour in the milk that you want, however much you want, in your little jar thing. You screw on the lid really tight. You literally shake it for 30 to 60 seconds according to the website until it's about half froth, half milk. You then take off the lid, you stick it in the microwave, you microwave it for 30 seconds, you pull it out, and then it's just so beautiful. It's just like so stiff. The froth is just like really puffy and so beautiful. And by this time your coffee should be already brewed if you're using a Keurig. I will put in a little bit of sweetener, maybe like brown sugar or whatever. I've been really enjoying brown sugar. It's just so good. You can also add a little bit of vanilla if you want to do something fancy. Cinnamon, I don't know. Make your coffee the way you like your coffee. Then you you pour in the milk and the froth, but you do what the fancy baristas do. You take that big old spoon, or any kind of spoon really, you place it at the neck of the jar thing, bottle, whatever. You let all the milk pour in, and then you get to scoop all the foam out on top, and you create this little mountain of puff, and it looks so beautiful, and you're like, wow, I did that without a milk frother. So amazing. I love lattes. Lattes are my favorite coffee drink. If I'm going to be drinking coffee that is like from Starbucks or from like a fancy place, I will get a latte. And so now that I know how to like make a semi version of like a coffee, definitely coffee, a latte, that's just really exciting to me. So yeah, it just works so well. Just be careful of getting the jar out of the microwave because it'll be kind of hot. Just be careful of that. Use common sense. It works out so well. You can put cinnamon on top of the foam and make it look really fancy. You can put on caramel drizzle. It's just so many things you can do to make yourself a fancy coffee in the morning or whenever you want to drink your coffee. So highly recommend. Super easy. If you have been longing for that foamy milk and was not able to get it because you don't want to buy a milk frother, you can do it at home without a milk frother. So yay. Thank you, Pinterest. Thank you, website that I found this from. It is truly amazing. So now that I'm at the end of all the things that I need to talk about, the lighting has gotten better, but we still have the lamp going, so thanks for putting up with the lamp and the strange lighting. I do appreciate it. I'm sorry if it was weird at all, but you do what you gotta do. Like I said at the beginning, all my various show notes will be linked places. If you're on my blog, they're down below, and if you're on YouTube, they'll be linked down below. All my social medias, they'll be linked down below. There's a Ravelry podcast group. Catnip podcast, that's cool. Place to buy my yarn, that's catnityarns.pigcartel.com. We've been having very strange like weather recently because it's like been hot, but it's also been really rainy, so it's been really humid, and it's just like, but it's also really cloudy, so it's not as hot as it could be because of the cloud cover, which is really nice. Thank you, clouds. So yay. We're halfway through August, or we're close to halfway through August. But we are definitely halfway through August. So August is usually really hot in Texas. September is also very, very warm. October can also be very warm as well, but July and August are usually the hottest months for sure. So once we get through that, hopefully we'll be on the downward slope into the cooler weather. Hopefully that's just right around the corner, but you never know. Hopefully that'll happen. So if you are living in a climate with very warm weather, I hope you're staying cool. I hope that it's easy for you to stay cool. If you have cold weather, I am very jealous of you right now. So there's that. I hope you have had a wonderful week and that you continue to have a wonderful weekend. I hope that if you have crafty plans that they are successful. I hope if you're reading a book, I hope that you're enjoying it, because there's nothing quite like really, really enjoying a good book. There are lots of really good feelings in the world, but that is like a feeling that can't really be matched by a lot of things, in my mind. That's just a personal preference. But in my mind, that is one feeling that cannot be recreated. So I hope you're enjoying your reading. There's that. I hope you're enjoying your knitting, your baking, whatever. I hope you're enjoying life. Just, so yes, hopefully I will get a fair amount of knitting done in the car and just this week in general, or weekend in general. My mom and I have plans to watch the first episode of the brand new season of Project Runway. I love Project Runway so much. Season 16, we watched it since like almost the very beginning. It's gonna be so much fun. I'm really looking forward to doing this. it's something my mom and I used to do together, and we would knit and we would watch Project Runway, and it was just so much fun, and now we get to do it again, and I'm just so excited. So yes, looking forward to that. Hopefully I will get a lot of knitting done during that time. So hopefully there'll be a lot of content for next week. Next week might be a little wonky. We'll see. We have big plans for next week as well, so we'll see how that goes. If it doesn't work out, I'll figure it out. There should be definitely an episode on Saturday. So also, I got through this entire episode and completely forgot. Tomorrow on Friday, which is crazy that it works out that way. I don't know if it is actually that day. Might be today, might be Saturday. I don't know. But drum roll, please. This podcast, the Catnip Podcast, will be 1 year old either today, tomorrow, or Saturday. How crazy is that? I've been doing this for a year, and I can't believe that, I've come this far. I can't believe that it's been so successful, that you guys like it. I really, really appreciate you guys continuing to come back and watching my episodes, commenting, subscribing, and liking. So wonderful. Sharing it, talking about it on your Instagram. I really, really appreciate every single one of you. All your comments are so sweet. They always make my day whenever I see them pop up as a notification. So you guys are wonderful. Thank you for sticking with me through. If you're from the very beginning, you know the awkward podcasting stage where you're episodes 1 through 5 usually are pretty rough, but hopefully we've come out of that, and we'll see where this podcast goes in the future. I definitely want to try and plan a giveaway of some sort for the 1 year podiversary. Woohoo! I definitely want to try and plan a giveaway. But because this weekend we are traveling, I don't have anything in mind. I should have planned that before, but I didn't. My bad. But hopefully by next week I should have a little bit more information on that. So stay tuned for that. We'll see how that goes. So yes, be on the lookout for that, because we want to celebrate the fact that this podcast is 1 year old, and regardless if you're a new viewer or if you've been with me from the beginning, I appreciate you. I appreciate your views and your comments and your likes and subscribes and just everything. So I appreciate you. Thanks for being part of the Catnip Podcast family. It means so much to me. I've had such a wonderful joy doing this, and it's been a wonderful experience so far. So here's to many years more, however long I do this. Who knows? But we'll see for the long future ahead and the Catnip Podcast. So on that happy note, I will say goodbye here, because that is all I have to say. I'm glad I remembered that before I stopped recording. See, if it had been tomorrow, if it had been Friday, I would have remembered because it's in my planner, but hello, car. It's Thursday. We're supposed to have different schedules. No one cares about the recording schedule. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, forgetting about the podiversary. Yes, because today's Thursday. Little mixed up, little wonky. That's okay. Thanks for hanging in there. All the various background changes. It's been good. So yes, I hope that you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!